Photosynthesis is the process by which autotrophic plants synthesize carbohydrates. Plants require sunlight to carry out photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is an anabolic process wherein complex molecules are synthesized from simpler ones. Can you recall the basic requirements for photosynthesis to occur? Thus, we may define photosynthesis as the process by which green plants produce carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. From the definition, most of you might conclude that the process of photosynthesis occurs only during daytime. But this is not so. Photosynthesis continues through day and night. Photosynthesis is carried out in two stages: light-dependent reaction and light-independent reaction. Light-independent reaction, also called the dark reaction or Calvin cycle, can continue even in the absence of light. However, it requires the energy produced in the light-dependent reactions and so is indirectly regulated by light. The chloroplast of plant cells is the site of photosynthesis. Chloroplast is an organelle present in the cytoplasm of the plant cell. It is bounded by a double membrane. Chloroplast contains the pigment chlorophyll, which is a major requirement for photosynthesis. The chloroplast contains a matrix of ground substance called stroma. Stacks embedded in the stroma are called grana. The grana is made up of stacks of thylakoids arranged one above the other to give the grana a pile-like appearance. Light reaction occurs in the thylakoid membrane, and dark reaction occurs in the stroma. The events that occur during the process of photosynthesis can be summarized in 3 points. First, light energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecule. This is a part of the light-dependent reaction. Second, the light energy is converted into chemical energy, and water molecules are split into hydrogen and oxygen. This is also part of the light-dependent reaction. And finally, the carbon dioxide absorbed by the plant undergoes reduction reaction to form carbohydrates. This reaction does not require light and hence is part of the light-independent reaction. Now, let's look at the details of what happens during the light-dependent and light-independent reactions. The light-dependent reaction, also called the photochemical reaction, requires the presence of light. Light-dependent reaction leads to the production of high-energy intermediate molecules, NADPH and ATP. These energy-rich molecules are ultimately used to form glucose during the light-independent reaction. The glucose is later converted to starch. Light-dependent reaction begins when light falls on the chlorophyll molecules present in thylakoid membrane. The chlorophyll molecules get excited and emit electrons. These electrons move through various electron carrier molecules. The light energy also causes photolysis or splitting of water. This releases electrons, protons, and oxygen. This reaction is important as it gives out oxygen gas that sustains life on Earth. The photolysis of water is also called the Hill reaction, named after Robert Hill, who first demonstrated it. The electrons produced during light reaction are moved through several molecules, and finally they produce an energy-rich NADPH molecule. NADPH stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. The protons move to the inner lumen of thylakoid and help in the formation of the second energy-rich substance, the ATP. This process of production of ATP, initiated by light energy, is called photophosphorylation. So, at the end of the light-dependent reaction, plants have oxygen gas, ATP, and NADPH, which they produced with the help of light, chlorophyll, and water. A plant was grown in a closed room. Optimum water was provided, and the carbon dioxide required was also provided to it artificially. But there was no sunlight. Instead, artificial light was provided. Will the plant continue photosynthesis? The ATP and NADPH produced in the light-dependent reaction are used in the light-independent reaction. The light-independent reaction is the biosynthetic phase of photosynthesis and is also called dark reaction. Another name for this stage is Calvin cycle. Light-independent reaction is carried out in 3 stages: carbon fixation, reduction reactions, and regeneration reaction. In the first stage, carbon dioxide that enters through the stomata is taken up by a 5-carbon compound, RUBP. This reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme Rubisco. During this stage, a series of reactions leads to formation of glucose. ATP and NADPH formed during light-dependent reaction gets utilized here. The glucose molecule is later converted to starch, which is the storage polysaccharide in plants. In the final stage, the RUBP is regenerated to continue the Calvin cycle. So, at the end of the light-independent reaction, plants have carbohydrates in the form of glucose and starch.